I'm going to convene this hearing with apologies that we're going to have to interrupt, take a brief recess. As you may know, votes are underway, which is a good thing, and Senator Blunt and I will have to go back to vote on the next round of votes. So our colleagues may be able to appear or may not, but I think in interest of your time and ours, we should get started. Without objection, I'm going to make my opening statement part of the record and simply say that this hearing is another step in a continuing effort to move forward with the surface transportation needs and challenges of our time. Any surface transportation reauthorization practice has to be multimodal and has to address rail priorities. That is the issue that brings us here, and part of investing in rail is making sure it has dedicated funding in an account within the new Transportation Trust Fund as the President's proposed, or from a rail trust fund as I proposed. And Senator Blunt and I and others, he's really taken the initiative, have proposed a new method of funding here. Obviously, resources are critical. Making the right investments and the right choices helps to improve safety and reliability today or tomorrow. Metro North will be submitting its response to the deep dive investigation that was conducted by the Federal Railway Administration. I'm going to be looking forward to receiving it, but clearly federal agencies and watchdogs have been lax or laggard as well in their effort in many respects. So the emphasis has to be not only on the work that you're doing at the local level, but also on what the federal government can do to promote and advance the cause of safety and reliability in rail transportation. We have a great panel, and I will introduce them after I give Senator Blunt, the ranking member of the committee, an opportunity to make some opening comments.
Well, Chairman, thank you. I have a statement. I'll put it in the record as well in interest of time. Certainly, the opportunities we have to grow jobs, to make things, to manufacture, to connect with the worldwide marketplace aren't there if we don't have the infrastructure that supports that. I think this is a critical moment as we look forward where we are next year, but just as importantly, where we're going to be to take advantage of the opportunities 20 years from now that will be there if we make the right infrastructure decisions and a couple of other decisions, and won't be if we don't. You know, if you outgrow your capacity to make your economy move forward, your economy doesn't move forward. So I'm glad that this panel's here. We look forward to their testimony and advice, and I'll turn this back over to you.
Thank you, Senator Blunt. Let me just introduce very briefly the panel, and then we'll turn to Mayor Martin for his comments. David Martin is the mayor of Stamford, a long career and distinguished record in public service in local government as member of our Board of Representatives and then president of it, and was elected to serve a 4-year term as mayor of the city of Stamford and has taken a lead in transportation. Sly James, mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, we welcome you here. I know also of your long and distinguished record of public service in Kansas City to your community and to the state of Missouri. John Robert Smith, co-chair of Transportation for America, we welcome your expertise and your experience in this area and your guidance along with the rest of this panel in moving forward, helping us to mobilize support for rail transportation. And Paul Fisher, who's chair of the Supply Chain Innovation Network of Chicago and vice chair of the Board of Trustees of Centerpoint Properties Trust. We're looking forward to your informing us more fully about the impacts of rail transportation, as Senator Blunt so well said, on our economy, economic growth, and job creation, moving the goods and people that are essential to our economy. And Raymond Popour, Executive Director of the National Infrastructure Alliance, likewise, your long experience in this area and your perspective on how transportation is served by the investment we can and must make, again, persuading our colleagues that these investments are critically important to our future. So, Mayor Martin, the floor is yours.
Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Blunt, thank you for inviting me here today to speak about this important issue of transportation infrastructure. My name is David Martin. I've been serving since December 1st as the mayor of Stamford, Connecticut. Stamford is the third largest city in Connecticut with over 125,000 residents, located approximately 30 miles outside of Manhattan. The city is home to one of the most diverse and vibrant communities in our country and is the largest financial services district in the New York metro area outside of New York City. I am honored and proud to testify on behalf of the Stamford residents and on behalf of the broader population of people in Connecticut and the Northeast who depend on rail and who are seeking to build economic growth on a well-functioning transportation system. Today I plan to discuss two areas: the importance of rail to the economic vitality of the region and the critical need for federal investment in our rail infrastructure. Each day, over 125,000 passengers ride on the New Haven line of Metro-North Railroad, which is the 60-mile stretch of track between New York City, Manhattan, and New Haven, Connecticut. And it carries both commuters and long-distance travelers throughout the Northeast, including a key stop in Amtrak in Stamford. Indeed, I took Amtrak today to come to this hearing. The Stamford Intermodal Transportation Center sees 225 commuter trains, more than 1,000 buses, and tens of thousands of commuters each working day. And while we are a suburb of New York, and many people think that we are a suburban town sending commuters into New York, Stamford is in fact a net inbound station with more people arriving to work in Stamford than actually leave our town to work in Manhattan or other cities. The New Haven line of Metro-North is the busiest rail line in the United States. In 2012, a total of 39 million passengers utilized the New Haven line, an all-time high. Projections show that ridership to increase to 57 million by 2030, roughly a 50% increase in less than 20 years. And if we were to provide rail service equivalent to other industrialized nations, we would easily exceed a 50% increase in much less than 10 years. It plays a vital role in supporting the nearly $3 trillion economy of the Northeast United States and is a vital portion of the rail network that extends from Washington, D.C. to Boston. When rail service is effective, it provides economic benefits, better access to markets, employment, and increased investment. In fact, because of the valuable federal, state, local, and private sector investment in the Stamford Intermodal Transportation Center, including support from you, Senator Blumenthal, that you have helped provide, there is now $5 billion, that's a B, $5 billion in mixed-use, sustainable, transit-oriented development taking place within a short walk of our transit center. Business in Stamford and throughout Fairfield County depends on rail. In Stamford, the vacancy rate for commercial buildings near the train station is half the commercial vacancy rate in other areas. We are unique in that we not only have local residents depending on rail to commute to New York City, but we have employees coming to Stamford, as I said earlier. And when I meet with executives from these companies located in Stamford, they are all concerned about the reliability and future of rail service. Unreliable service, frequent breakdowns, and other complications threaten their growth, and it affects Stamford's ability to both attract and retain and grow businesses. It affects the quality of life for residents, especially considering the fact that it is the primary alternative to traveling on our roadways, which are among the most congested in the country. The federal government can have an immediate impact and safeguard the long-term vitality of the Northeast region by investing. And while the return from this investment, or ROI, is astronomical, the scope of this investment and the scope of the investment necessary is more than what any one city or any one state can support. Despite this overwhelming and growing demand for rail service, we haven't made the necessary investments. The line was built in the 1840s, before the Civil War, and it is beginning to fail. In the past 2 years, the New Haven line has suffered from significant disruptions. In May of this year, or May of 2013, a train derailment that injured 76 people. In September 2013, broken electrical feeder cable past its design light caused a power outage that hampered service for 2 weeks. In January 2014, riders were stranded on trains at the Grand Central Station for over 2 hours. And just this week, a fire at the Coscob switching control caused multiple days of delays. The line has been laden with frequent delays caused by malfunctioning bridges, signaling errors, and any number of other problems. There are in fact 134 bridges on the main line. 5 of them are movable bridges that are rated in fair or poor condition, And in fact, the youngest of those bridges was built over 100 years ago in 1907. We had the bridge malfunction in Norwalk in January and October of 2011, and again this year. The Cascade Bridge malfunctioned this last December, and we have additional needs in our infrastructure, both in signaling, in the rail yards, and the platforms and tracks. Under the leadership of our Governor, Dan Malloy, the state of Connecticut is committed to investing nearly $1 billion over the next 5 years, despite significant budget constraints. But even with this level of investment, it is estimated that an additional $3.6 billion is needed through 2020 to rebuild that rail infrastructure. Other nations are investing in bullet trains. We need to make the investment in our infrastructure as well. In terms of the importance of this, it exceeds that of just Stamford or of Greenwich or Norwalk or Portchester in New York. The most successful nations in history have been defined by their ability to maintain and grow their transportation networks. The great empires of the Persians, the Chinese, the Inca, and particularly the Romans, all known for their investment in roads. The great powers of Portugal, Spain, and Britain depended upon their mastery of navigation, ports, and sea power. In all cases, great nations' investments in transportation was well beyond the capacity of any single portion of that nation. And the United States, as a great nation, is no different. Our success and prosperity has been made possible in large part because of our commitment to our transportation networks, whether it was the Erie Canal, the Transcontinental Railroad, or our interstate highway system. I am here to request funding that can be used to help make the repairs to our passenger rail line and put us back on track towards safe, fast, and reliable service. I understand that these challenges will not be solved overnight, but I am asking for your partnership and your assistance to help prevent economic or safety catastrophe and safeguard the economic vitality of our region. Thank you again for your time and your attention this afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor Martin.